Yeah, people are
Aha,
back. I'm
cool, it
happy.
started recording. So over to you, Sadie.
Okay. I guess I'll start with a bit about me and then the project that me and Rakesh are doing. Um, I'm a musician. I also studied journalism at university, so lots of like audio visual, trying to spread messages kind of stuff. I started a group in 2014 called the Hip Hop Academy, which was basically doing workshops with kids at festivals. I was doing DJ ones, and then I had friends doing like graffiti, beatbox, street dance, and stuff. Um, and in the last couple of years, have been like converting that more to be helping to spread kind of sustainability and wellness messages through those channels and through those mediums to kids who might not otherwise be connected to, nature or yeah, their purpose in making the world a better place. So yeah, that's basically me in the Hip Hop Academy. I can link it if anyone's interested. So I met Rakesh. I did my permaculture, my PDC last year in the Azores. I did like a month's internship with Elder Venante in San Miguel. And that was like a teacher training course and a sociocracy course as well. So that when I found that course, I was like, oh, it's kind of all the angles I wanted to get at with the Hip Hop Academy. So it's nice to get that a little more formalized after I'd been interested in permaculture for a few years by then. And Helder had shown us a video of Rakesh talking about sociocracy and how it was like the permaculture of people. And we'd seen a few videos, and that was the one that made me go like, that's actually that made it click for me. So then like a few months later, when I got back to the UK, I seen that there was a permaculture course nearby, which on its own was interesting. And then it was a children in permaculture course, and I saw that Russia was facilitating. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go to that. So we met there, and then we were talking a bit about. He said he wanted to do a project incorporating music and youth, and how that would look with teaching permaculture and stuff as well. And I'd basically been planning the same thing with the Hip Hop Academy, have like whole curriculum structure. Like my idea for the future is more of a camp. We're going to get some land and have the kids come and be immersed in the sustainable lifestyle, and then doing the creative projects to, articulate that and for the joy and to help remember things, because music is such a great tool for learning as well as like entertainment. So yeah, so we kind of merged our two ideas about that, and now we're designing a course that's going to be 6 weeks from the end of January, I think, online, because that was the other thing. I'd planned a lot of things this year, just starting them with like the youth center near me, and then everything kind of got cancelled. So we've been kind of converting how we would do those ideas online, because it's quite a difficult thing to do when you want to collaborate creatively. But so that's what we're trying to get at now. The course is kind of looking like there'll be like a teaching element and then a group element, in like collaborating to write a song about things we've talked about that day, things that stuck out to people, whether they had a phrase or an idea. And yeah, we're going to see how it works. It's going to be the first trial, and then hopefully be like the basis for the future model of doing it face to face and with different aspects. We're just keeping it musical right now because I think that's actually the easiest thing to do over the internet. But I definitely want to incorporate all the visual arts. And yeah, the main aim is to aim it at a demographic of kids and youth who don't feel often like, if they saw a sustainability course, that it was for them, even though it applies to them more than anyone else, really. Like people on low incomes and people in the cities are the people who are going to get hit the worst by some of the things we're all predicting. So those are the people who need empowering, and yeah, do it speaking in a language that makes sense to them. that's the idea. I feel like I talked really quickly through that. So yeah, I guess if anyone has any questions, or Rakesh, if you want to say anything about it.
That's brilliant. No, I think it's nice introductions. Yeah, so the main concept is just to rephrase it is really to see how we can engage different youths, especially from different minorities who don't always have easy access to this, to just think about some of their needs, to think about how they can start meeting some of those needs and introduce some tools that get them to think about how what is their part to play in this amazing story of us becoming this most beautiful, wonderful community that we all know, all of us human beings have the capability of doing, but because of politics and greed and consumerism and all the rest of it, and the whole corporate mentality is completely erodes that from us. So how is it we can get them to be part of this real revolution? And how can we do it in a creative way? So music for me, as people may have noticed, I really love my music, my reggae. So and reggae and hip hop have very close kind of sentiments in terms of using lyrics and music to educate. Edutainment is a kind of term that I've been banding about recently. So how do we use that music to really engage youths? And can we even make music that then goes out to other people who then get inspired and say, wow, yeah, that's interesting. How can we learn about that? And how can we get involved in finding those solutions? And yes, that's kind of what it's about. Unfortunately, we're in strange times, as all of us know, in that we can't do this face to face, which is always what it was intending to be. It was supposed to be an inner London kind of youth project, but hey, let's open it up. Let's see where it goes to. Let's see who is interested. And to be honest, we've been quite slow in doing the promotion. We've only just kind of got it out. In fact, I only just done the registration form this morning. So yeah. So
this is Mark 1. This is the trial version. It's going to be
even if we just have 5-6 people coming on it, and we just have a really good laugh and good fun with that really small group, I think that's what it's about. And just play with it first, and then see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and have something cool to come away with that you can then show to other people and make them interested in it, and
exactly.
spread the word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, any questions around that? What time?
There's about 10 minutes left.
Yeah, we have 9-10 minutes.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
What kind of tools or process are you thinking of using for people to collaborate online to make the music?
Well, that's the bit that's going to take the most tinkering. I think so much of it's going to depend on who we actually get on the course and what skills they have, because if people are I'm a producer, so I'm happy to collect whatever anyone gives and compile it. But if someone else is a producer who comes onto the course, then I would like them to do that. And also if they wanted to do a remix of their own version. So, and if we had all vocalists and no instrumentalists, then we're going to have to fill in the gap there. So I think that's the most, what we're going to have to see through the process. I think the idea right now is to have an ideas folder that we all contribute to over the 6 weeks. You record a couple lyrics that you liked, or you had a melody that came to mind when you were thinking of this concept or something. You chuck it all in a group folder online, and then we can, I'm hoping, collaboratively vote on what goes where and what included, this stuff to have to kind of work out. But and then I'm gonna collaborate, take all those pieces, stitch them together, and then hopefully have at least a couple tracks out of it.
So what the call out is basically we're looking for people who already have some kind of musical skills.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to teach them music at this stage. Maybe that comes later down the line when we have some youths who are familiar with the process and how we work. And once we found our style and they found their style, and once we've got something going, the idea is then the youths can start teaching other youths, and teaching their friends and bring them into this kind of project. And but up until then, the first stage is, hey, let's find some people who already have some musical skills. And so yeah, and I'm also speaking to tomorrow a reggae producer as well, and yeah, he's also doing something very similar right now. I mean, he used to live in Manchester, but right now he's in Guadeloupe. So he's got a nice studio out in the sun. Lucky, like, good friend. So hopefully he'll invite me out there one day. So yeah, so let's see where this goes. I'm fairly certain when we speak tomorrow, he'll also be happy to, if there's some work that anyone wants, if we want any work done through him, I'm sure he'd be very happy to also process stuff and put a more of a reggae feel to some of the music as well. So then I can blast it out and I can play it anywhere and everywhere. I can bring it to all my events and we can have our own little permaculture reggae.
Yeah, you can say you
reggae
were
album.
executive producer on it.
So say again, Sadie?
Say you were executive producer.
Hey, I don't need to take the credit for it, but
I think you deserve some title on
inspiration.
metadata.
Inspiration, at least. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So I wanted to add, like, yeah, definitely face to face. I always envisioned it a lot more skill sharing and a lot more teaching oriented. But yeah, for now we're going to start with musicians and then kind of expand it from there.
The first time that I actually planned this, we had it all really nicely laid out, where we had different producers, so some big reggae producers in South London who were going to do some of the work. We had different singers who could come and show people how to sing, how to write lyrics, and how to how to find their range, find their voice, and everything. We had, this was specifically reggae though, because that's my field, that's who I know. And the whole thing was planned out to the point where we would then have an album, and then we would present it at the the course would finish 2 weeks before the London Permaculture Festival, and we were going to do on stage the first performance of our works. It was immaculately laid out, but for various reasons it just didn't happen. So this is the next step. This one I'm certain will happen, and it's going to be great. So I'm really, really so happy that Sadie, that we met and we can work on this together.
Yeah.
And share this music. Hopefully we can set it up in such a way that it's Creative Commons license. You can just take the music and play it without fear of breaking any rules or laws or doing anything illegal.
Yeah, and release the stems so people can do their own remixes and versions of it.
Absolutely.
I like that idea, open source, kind of open collaborative community project.
And where can we find, Sadie, like music that you've been making already with young people on your Facebook? Or
I haven't actually got anything online that I've done with the kids, because it's usually at festivals it's a lot more like drop-in sessions, so they kind of use a NBC, do it live or whatever. But I can post on my music.
Yeah, I like to hear your music and different things. Yeah, it would be really nice to hear some examples.
Do that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Somewhere out on Facebook or internet, YouTube somewhere, there should be a hip hop video that we made with some kids in India, in Goa. Okay, not really India,
nice.
in Goa. Really funny. It was really great fun to make, and we had some a really good bunch of people came and helped us to put that together. So I've just seen the pre-release of it, but I haven't actually found the full version. But yeah, I'll see if I can dig that out one day.
Yeah, I think it's so nice to collect collect this kind of conscious music together and music made with young people for like them, yeah, to see these things and to see what is possible.
Cool. So if there's no more questions, I think, should we move into the next session, the vegan food calculator?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
unless
sure.
there's anything else you want to add, Sadie.
No, I think that was basically everything for so far.
Cool. So I've shared the link.
Question.
Yeah.
Can we paste? Is it okay for us to repost this event on our websites?
Oh, please do,
That's,
because we've
yeah,
really,
sure. No, to get the word out, 'cause it sounds like a really great opportunity. Okay, thanks. We'll do that.
yeah, we're really far behind on the promotion. I only made the Facebook thing yesterday and put the sign up link today. So we've got 4 weeks in which to find 5, 6, maybe 10 people. That would be amazing. Thanks very much for the help. Yeah, so if anyone knows anybody, the price, don't worry about the price. Okay, everyone knows my style. Even though we put a number on there, it doesn't matter. Whatever you can afford, whatever they can afford, just
Have you talked to the Abundant Earth Foundation? Do you know who those guys are? They have a Facebook page. They fund things for youth like this kind of thing.
abundant.
Write it up, send it to them. Abundant Earth Foundation, and their focus is youth and permaculture. They have a youth and permaculture prize, an annual prize, but outside of that annual prize, they also fund spontaneous ideas like this. They're really nice, they're very accessible. The woman that runs it is Heather Apricot or something like that, I think, if I remember her name. She's been at some of the convergences.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat.
Brilliant. Maybe that's one for you to chase up, Sadie, because me and writing funding applications, nah.
Okay, that should be my area of expertise, being a
I think,
journalist.
Sadie, you just talking to her directly, I think that would be exactly the way to go, that a young person go and talk to a student. I think that's the way to do it.
Brilliant.
So yeah,
So
I'll
check
put
it
the
out.
link for you. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much,
He's really
Mandy.
nice.
Thanks, Sadie.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Cool.
Move on.
Yeah. Okay. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about a project we've been developing here in, well, not here, but yeah, in Roots in Permaculture, which is the kind of umbrella entity that this is part of. We're working on kind of various projects which are collaborative. So there a lot of them kind of teaching tools or design tools, things that we can use on courses, things that we can share for people to help when they're designing their own systems. So the one we're going to talk about now is the vegan nutrition calculator. So it came out of an idea that Rakesh had, and then he, myself, and Roy have been working on it. And we'd like to open it to other people who have an interest to come and help with the research, with the technical side. So basically the idea is, it's, like I said, like a teaching tool, like a design tool. So thinking about as like a vegan permaculture network, we're kind of promoting and supporting plant-based diets and plant-based land systems. And, you know, it's important in that case to think about how we can eat in this way, in a way that is balanced, which is healthy, and to think about, you know, what kind of system does it look like? How can we source all that nutrition in from different kinds of foods, different kinds of growing systems? So what we started looking at was a way that we could have the kind of basic nutritional needs that you could input, kind of who was needing to be nourished from the system, look at their needs, look at the kind of foods and what kind of nutrition they would offer, and then to start to think about how you could source those kind of foods. So what could you forage, what could you grow in a forest garden in terms of it being, you know, a perennial low maintenance system? What would you maybe need to grow in a more high maintenance annual garden system? How could you combine that in terms of having faster yields? what things maybe would you want to grow in a kind of community garden? What would you want to source from a local cooperative? So kind of going along that scale of thinking about, you know, different ways and different kind of like amount of intervention or the kind of the distance you would need to get all that nutrition. And then thinking, you know, if you're going to design a system for each one of those foods, also having some information about kind of what kind of plant it was or which part of the plants you would use and where it would go within a system. So in terms of permaculture zoning, like what kind of zone would you usually put that in? So that's kind of like the overarching idea, with an idea in the end that when we've kind of collected all those things, you'd be able to input, you know, for like an individual or a family or a community, kind of how many people, yeah, maybe going into more details in terms of male, female, children, and then look at the different ways you could meet that, and then kind of have the kind of design or part to help you have the information for a planting plan. So in terms of seeing, you know, okay, maybe I need, you know, this many kind of walnut trees, these kinds of fruit trees, these kinds of starchy vegetables, these kinds of greens, and to kind of get a kind of pattern understanding of what kind of quantity and what kind of, you know, different plant crops you would need to have a general balanced diet. And I think, yeah, in general, you know, we recognize that obviously every person is an individual, and the data that we're using is kind of very general in terms of like recommended daily allowances or in the different terms that are used for it, you know, the different ways that things are measured. So generally it was kind of like a ballpark rather than getting too bogged down in details, because everyone has their own needs, they have their own constitution. But yeah, to have a kind of a general idea. And then what we were also interested in, which is probably going to be a further stage, we were looking as well the kind of idea that in terms of forest gardens, and when you have perennial systems, in general, you should be growing more nutrient dense food. So because of that kind of perennial root system, and because of the way the plants in a healthy system and the way you've got all the nutrition, the connections, the soil, everything working, you should end up with much more nutrient dense food. And we wanted also to look at that in terms of kind of getting information for more unusual food plants that maybe aren't commercially grown at the moment, but that could be a way for people to be able to get a, you know, something that's richly nutritious, but without having a large piece of land, without having to grow a large volume of food. Because at the moment, a lot of the food that we consume, and that is kind of the main commercial crops and that you can get a lot of data about, first of all, obviously they're grown on depleted soils, they're grown with a lot of chemicals, but also, yeah, they're crops that are kind of have a very high kind of appearance of a high nutrition. So these are some of the things that we need to do more research into in terms of finding information about these more unusual crops. But for now, what we have is we have like a data set from the USDA, which has, yeah, like a lot of the kind of commonly consumed plant-based foods, and some things that maybe, yeah, you would be able to forage, or some more kind of plants that would be suitable in a forest garden. So what I'm going to do is just share my screen maybe and show you where we've got to for now in terms of collecting the data. And then, yeah, we can talk a little bit more about what kind of things would be helpful if people were interested to support this. Okay, can you see my screen okay? Cool. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna try and get this box out of the way somewhere. Yeah, so for now we are collecting this information in a spreadsheet. In the future, there's different options. Maybe I'll let Rakesh talk a bit more about the kind of the programming and technical side, because that's really his realm of expertise. But here, yeah, you can see for now, we are just collecting kind of some of the the RDA of all these different things, looking at what units they're in, looking at kind of what are the recommended male and female levels, and then kind of going to, let's see, we have sources. Yeah, so looking at having totals of kind of what you need of all these different elements, and then being able to put in things from the list. So kind of looking at what you're already growing and consuming, and kind of adding them in generally in the quantities that maybe you've been growing them in. So for example, could say, okay, I've got like sweet potatoes. This year I was growing like 50 kilos of sweet potatoes. I was growing maybe 10 or 15 kilos of dried beans. I had, you know, 15 kilos of other potatoes. I had 20 kilos of beetroot. I had this many greens. And you can kind of start putting those things in, or saying, okay, for now I'm like getting these kind of foods in bulk from a whole food, and then start to see already, you know, what you're contributing towards your overall nutrition, and then maybe where the gaps are and what kind of things you would need to add, and start creating a pattern of how you'd like to do that. So yeah, a lot of these things are not finished in terms of the coding, but yeah, here's like the data set we're working with. So we've got here, you can see like a very long list of all kinds of possible things that maybe you're growing and not growing, some of them processed, some of them in their pure form. So yeah, you can see a lot of these are kind of like standard things that maybe are more suited to an annual garden. But yeah, there are more kind of unusual things that have, you can maybe wild harvest or would be more suitable to a forest garden. We've got like lamb's quarters, we've got New Zealand spinach. And then what we have is we've got, yeah, like all the different categories for them so far. And then we've got coming towards the edge, which we need to fill in probably just for the kind of main version of each food, because you can see here this data set has like every possible permutation of how it could be prepared. But yeah, here we have like the category of a plant. So for example, you could use it eventually if you said, okay, I'm looking to have like tree fruit, so you could look by tree fruit that were containing like a high amount of vitamin C or, you know, vitamin E or something. So you could look by the categories, and then also by the location in the design. So we have a place out for the zones. And then, yeah, also looking at the sources. So like, where are the different places we could source that food? Again, thinking about, you know, encouraging a focus on perennial foods, on nutrient dense foods. So things that have like the kind of least environmental impacts in terms of like tilling the soil, in terms of doing a lot of work, but will give you really good quality nutrient dense food. But that's kind of overview of where we are with, yeah, like the data. So you can see we've got lots of things in terms of like needing more research into unusual food crops, like going through this list and like kind of weeding out some of the main listings, adding things here about what kind of plants they are. So yeah, we've had different people coming in and out of the project so far. I'm just going to stop sharing for now. Unless there's anything you want to add, Rakesh, while these files are up.
No, not really.
Cool, okay. So yeah, it would be really great if there are people out there with programming knowledge, if there are people out there who are interested in getting involved in terms of like helping sort out some of the data and adding some categories to that, like the zones, the type of plants, and yeah, looking through sources of research. So yeah, that would be really lovely. And Rakesh, do you want to add anything about where you see it going?
Okay, so my approach to this at the moment has been very much to be very, very hands off. While I can probably do all of this, it's I don't want it to be my project. So I'm pretty much allowing whoever wants to be involved to do whatever work they want to do on it, and allow it to go in whatever direction it wants to go in. My dream, though, is that, for example, during a permaculture course, or whenever we're making some kind of a design, we can, let's imagine there's a family of 4 people, and we want to work out how is it that we meet the needs of that family from a vegan, who are maybe a vegan family, so that we can pretty much just put numbers in. Right, we've got 2 adults, 2 children, bang, this is the amount of food, this is the amount of nutrients that you need throughout the year, month by month. And then eventually to be able to say, right, so where am I going to meet my protein needs, my this needs, my that needs, my the other needs, through the kinds of things that we plant. So then we can start having an idea of what kind of plants we have. What kind of plants can we plant, and with a preference to do it using perennial plants, so trees and shrubs and things which have the minimal amount of work required to keep it going, and see how much of it can we meet that way. Then what's left over? All right, so maybe, oh, what about this month? In this month I've got nothing. How can I meet my needs in that month? So maybe I need to preserve, pickle, ferment, so on and so forth. So now actually I need to produce some more that I can then harvest and preserve, so that I've then got access to that during the months where I don't have access. So this is my dream. This is where I would really love to get this project to. From a technical perspective, I see 2 ways forward. If we want to do this purely using spreadsheets, it's going to get clunky and it's going to get very difficult. What we could start doing is take this data and turn it into a database, which again is something I can do. That's what I used to do. Just make a living doing stuff like that. So we could turn it into a database and then but what I absolutely cannot do, I'm very good at working data, understanding data and organizing it, rationalizing it, for those who understand database terminology, organizing it in such a way that there's almost no duplication of data, so the data set becomes very, very efficient. And then writing different queries as to how to extract that data out, that stuff I can do. What I can't do is I can't make it look nice, and I can't make a front end to make that available to others. So if we were to go down the route of trying to make it into an application, I'd really need a front end UI developer who can actually make this look presentable. I can create the database, but again, if someone else can create that, wonderful. But I think that's one way forward. Or we stick to using the spreadsheet and know that we're going to get unstuck several times, and people are going to delete this and move that around, and it's we just have to accept that that's how it's going to be, and it's going to be a little bit slower. But hey, maybe that's an easier way forward, because that's maybe technology that people are more comfortable with working with. So that's kind of the route I see. So really, we need some people who are good at coding, maybe good with databases, but in the short term, we also need data. So collecting data on different food types that are not the standard, so where's the Elaeagnacea in there, where are the the ochres and the, I don't know, the more unusual plants that we would have growing in a permaculture garden. Where's the data set for that in terms of nutritional use? So that's one thing to look for. The other thing to look for is, as Sophie was saying, which is a little bit more subjective, but could we use this in a forest garden setting? Could we do it in this setting? Could we do it in that setting? What zone does it belong to? So maybe that kind of stuff is more or less anyone with a bit of knowledge can do, and and we just need some help putting that kind of data in as well. We also need people who maybe have some ideas of different ways in which we can organize this data and present it. So yeah, whoever has passion to do something, well, maybe if there's someone here who says, oh yeah, well actually I'd like to help in this way, please, now's a good time to step forward.
Yeah, any offers, any questions?
Yes, me. I know my English is not so good, and I don't have so much knowledge about plants and all this. But I really enjoy, or I love this this idea. Yeah, it would be so helpful for so many people in the future. I think this it is such a great idea, and I really love to help. But I don't know what I can do. I can do some research. Yes, sure. Yeah, I like to try.
Okay. Well, in Berlin, there's lots and lots and lots of really good developers, open source developers. Maybe how do we get access to people who'd be willing to maybe work on something like this? So maybe that's good. Try and find if that's part of your community.
Also in different languages, I think different universities have like their own research into, you know, like plants, into nutrition. So it would be useful people who know different languages to also check out what kind of research is out there and feed that into it. Yeah, what I'm going to try and do is in January to organize like another kind of working meeting on this project, and then different people who've expressed interest or who, now have heard about it to come and then talk about like what different skills and roles and how we could move forward with it.
Yeah, Sophie, I would love to be part of this, but I'm just still thinking what I can contribute, which part. Maybe I'll just take some time, think, and get back to you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, think about it and let us know. That would be lovely.
Because I would want to take up, like a coding part, but I'm not a coder, but I was trying to learn anyways. But if you don't find anyone who is like, a coder, then maybe I would like to look into that, that part. But yeah, let me just, keep you posted on that.
Okay, so what are you familiar with in terms of coding? What kind of?
I mean, C is fine. I was trying to learn Python.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but again, I'm from the storage background. So I was just thinking maybe, that would be a good opportunity because Python seems a bit easier to start off with. Yeah.
Python's again more back end type stuff, as opposed to GUI front end, nice, pretty, what Windows users would expect.
Yeah.
So it's not so developed in terms of that front end. But
okay. Yeah, let me also have a think about this and see how I can use my IT skills and see if I can contribute more.
Okay, maybe we can have a chat about that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Cool.
Okay, so I think we're about on time, aren't we?
Sorry, Marta, you were about to say something.
I was just gonna say I've been just kind of taking an inventory of all the different native plants. I don't know how this could help or anything, but I've realized that a lot of Native Americans used a lot of the native plants for medicinal and food purposes that has been a lot lost here in the Valley. And so working with the elderly people, being able to rescue some of that. And so kind of slowly doing sort of nutritional, but also medicinal plants more local to this area. So I don't know if eventually be helpful to also, I don't know, if somebody else wants to do permaculture in a specific area like here, then that would be easier for them to find kind of the kind of plants or food that does really good specifically to this weather, which is pretty unique, or the soil as well. And so I don't know if that would be helpful, but I've been compiling. So if ever it comes helpful, I'd be happy to share that info.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. And it would be nice, in the future if there's a way for people, I don't know, to add like a data subset of like specific plants. And then you can search by like a region or an area, and then those plants would come up as well in terms of like traditional native plants there, as well as like the kind of wider community of plants.
There's also many things that we use in a typical permaculture garden here in Europe that actually come from the Americas. So things like the wax myrtle, Myrica pennsylvania, Myrica gale, Myrica, yeah, so those things which are very, very, very much Native American Indian plants that they used, as you say, medicinally and herbally and things. So so there probably is a significant crossover in those things. Then yeah, so most of the potato things and the ochres and stuff like that, as Ruth mentions, all come from the Americas. You know, potatoes, tomatoes, all those, yeah. But if we're talking more permaculture specific, as I say, there probably is a significant crossover. So I'd say it's absolutely worth, if you've got some analysis around, you know, the kind of nutritional benefits of those different plants. Yeah, very useful. New Jersey tea, another interesting one. You know, Ceanothus. Yeah, so there's, yeah, why not? Why not? Perhaps maybe if you start with just giving us a list of the plant names, and then we can see, well, which ones really would work here and which are just so specific to your region that maybe that's, you know, part 2 of the implementation once, yeah, to try and start making it. All right, here's one for the Mediterranean, here's one for the tropics, here's one for arid. But for now, yeah, I think that's probably the best way forward.
Yeah, that
Amazing.
sounds good. Yeah, maybe you can share with me and Rakesh any files you have, Marta. That would be cool.
Sure. Sounds good.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
So,
Okay.
4 minutes over. So should we take a 6-minute break and then come back
Yeah,
on time?
let's
What
do
you
it.
think? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And we'll come back to speak about fermenting ourselves.
I have to leave for today, but